Hello, everybody. Welcome to our MediaLux Media Video Transport webinar. Today, we're going to make the short overview of all the features of video transport. And I would like to spend most of the time today answering your questions. Looks like a lot of our customers already familiar with most of the functionality, but there are a lot of questions left unanswered. So we would like to get some feedback from you and answer as much of your questions as possible. But first of all, let's take a look what video transport is. Video transport is a low latency solution to deliver the video feeds from one location to another. We can use SDI or NDI sources, as well as there is an option to contribute using web browsers to make all of those remote productions for remote guests or hosts possible. So there are a lot of use cases for our product, and we are going to show you the basics of the different scenarios today. The first one is when you just have to deliver from one location to another. There are two applications called Vtb Publisher and Vtb Receiver that allows you to send and receive the streams. There is a way to centrally control everything from a web-based control panel, where you can see all of the different locations where you have our software running, and you can centrally control what feed you want to send and where you want them to be sent. And the last one, but not least one, is there is an option to use our web-based contribution. You can just send the link to your guests, and they will be able to join your show, and you can output the video feeds to the SDI or NDI. And there is an application for the Windows machines that allows you to use a little bit higher quality connection. And if you have a Windows machine, then you can use the VT Guest application. All of those things can be checked at our website. You can go to www.medialux.com/VT and register and download our product. Let me show you some of core features of our application. So as I already told you, we have two applications which I can put here side by side. The first one is called Vtb Publisher, another one is a Vtb Receiver. And what you can see here is that in Vtb Publisher, I have all of my decklink cards available at my machine. I have two quad 2 cards, so I have 16 inputs in total at my machine. And as well as all the virtual inputs like the vMix output or screen capture, or I also have the camera which I'm using from PTZ Optics here, coming from NDI. We can connect to any of those cameras, and all you have to do is once you have selected the source, you can just click Publish, and it will be immediately available at the receiving side. There you can output those. So like right now I have sent the PTZ Optics camera. I can, on the receiver side, just select it. It takes some time to establish the connection between Vtb Publisher and Vtb Receiver. And once the video is available, you can select where you want it to be sent. Change a little bit the layout here so you can see a little bit more. So there's an option to select NDI or any of the SDI cards available at your machine as the output. For example, I can select the NDI and click Start Output. And as soon as I do so, the video is available at my network. Or I can use any of my HDI cards and also select the output and click Output, and it will starting the output on this card Probably this one is currently busy. And this is pretty straightforward way of delivering the video feeds from one location to another across the globe. There is an option to select the settings for the buffer. It can be really low, so real time, which will have a delay between 15 to 150 milliseconds. But it has some drawbacks in terms of the possible dropouts that might happen if something happens on your network, and we will not have enough time to resend the missing packets. Or so you might at some depending on the scenario, you need the really low latency, or you can put the buffer setting as reliable, which will have up to 5 seconds latency. But at the same time, it will allow us to resend any missing data if any disruption at the network level will occur. So it's will not at any way disrupt your video output. Of course, this is something you have to think over if you are having like bidirectional communication with some of your guests. Then probably you would like to have a real-time or ultra-low latency. But if the quality is more important than the delay, then you can just use the reliable to guarantee the delivery of the video feed. As I showed you right now, there are two parts, VT publisher and VT receiver. One more thing is that I mentioned before that there is an interface to control everything from the web. You can see here, this is my one location, these two sources, and right now I'm streaming from my side to myself. So it's also as the output and the input, and all of those sources which I have published are available here, and all those sources which I haven't yet published are available as well. So you just have to select any of them. For example, let it be my screen, for example. And here is it. It's a bit weird looking here because I do have it in the portrait mode, actually, not in the landscape right now. That's why it's look a little bit strange on the preview. But in general, at the receiver side, you will also receive it the way you want it to be. And if I want to stream from one location to another, not inside the one, I just have to select stream to and select another location, for example, a server, and then just click stream, and it will be send it to another location, which one is currently just a dummy sitting next here. So it's not going to stream anything right now, but just to show you that it's another location available. One of the coolest features which we have added some time ago is the option for you to send the link to your guest, and they can just open in the browser and contribute into your show. So this is the web guest, which is coming from the web browser, and I can also output it as NDI or SDI, the way you want it to be. And one of the cool features that we have added a few weeks ago is an option to control the web guest settings remotely. So now you can select any web guest and control their name, location, or resolution, and selecting the cameras remotely, as well as turn the camera on and off. It's now possible to be done centrally. So I guess that's it with a quick introduction. Looks like it took me only 15 minutes. But as I mentioned at the beginning, I would like to have more time today for answering to your questions. So please go ahead and ask your questions in Q&A section, or in the chat window here, whatever is more preferable for you. The first question, how is mix minus handled for web guests? Let me show you once again the interface of the Vt publisher. So the way it works is that this is of course I used to send to the guest I have shown right now. So the way it works that you are going into the settings for the source, which is going to be your studio feed, and then enable the mix minus feature inside the settings. After that, everybody who will be connected to the same web guest URL, so it just copy the web guest URL and then paste it into the browser. And everybody who is connected to the same URL will be in the same mix minus group, but will allow you to which will allow them to hear each other. And at the same time, at your receiver, you will have all the audio feeds with video with all the separate guests. The only thing you have to do inside your external vision mixer or the audio mixer in this case is that the audio which you are providing to our Vt publisher have to be the what we call total mix minus. So it shouldn't include any guests at all. So it should be only the audio coming from your studio with some kind of audio playbacks maybe, or anything which is not coming from the web guests. All the different audios coming from the web guests will be added and sent to the corresponding web guests, so they will hear everybody else except themselves. The next question, are you going to have Black Friday offer as you did last year? I can't really tell you so far. We do have some plans for those who participated last year, but in general, we are not going to have such a major thing as it was last year. The reason for that is that looks like it's frankly speaking, it doesn't really make so much sense for us this year since we're already busy working on a lot of feature improvements. So, answered live. What are the main difference between Vt server and Vt publisher, Vt receiver, and Vt guest? What are the use cases for them? The difference is that Vt publisher and Vt receiver application is just a standalone application like you see here, and Vt server is basically the software which is running in the background. It doesn't have any user interface, and you can control everything remotely from the control panel I showed before. So it will just appear here as a location, and you can do all the tasks remotely. And at the same time, you can use Vt server as a service for Windows machine if you don't need any access to the user interface at those remote locations. But it doesn't mean that you have to choose one, Vt server or Vt publisher. If you are running Vt publisher or Vt receiver, they still appear at the central control panel. So you can use both at the same time to run Vt publisher alongside with Vt receiver and then control them from the web-based control panel. One more thing to mention here, we noticed recently that a lot of our clients coming to the web-based control panel and doesn't really use it because probably they do not see how the sources appears here. And one of the reasons for that is that we noticed that the huge part of our clients just during the testing are just downloading the software, but do not download the license from their control panel. And then you are not using any license. We just don't know which applications belong to which client. And that's why your sources are not appearing in your control panel. So the right way of doing it is to download the software from your account page, then download the license, put the license in the same folder where you have your application. And once you will run it, it will automatically read the license file and connect everything together. And you will see all of your locations in your web-based control panel. Looks like I haven't covered VT-Guest application in the previous question. Yeah, VT-Guest, as I mentioned before, it's another application. Let me run it, which basically having the same functionality as it has the same functionality as the Webcast. It have two windows, the studio feed and your camera. Right now my camera is busy. Let me try to use, for example, another output from Mix. Yeah. So you have two feeds here, your camera here, and the studio feed at the bottom. And this is just a simplified version of our VT publisher and VT receiver made specifically for remote guests. So the only thing you have to do here is to put in the access ID at the top, which will show you the access. By the access ID, I mean here you can copy access ID and then put it into the application, and this will associate the studio feed with the studio feed you have from your VT publisher. One of the drawbacks at the same time of using VT-Guest so far is that we don't have the internal mix minus feature for VT-Guests. You will have to deal with all the mix minus creation by yourself while using VT-Guest. We are going to have this feature in one of the next releases, but I can't really give you the estimate when it will happen. How many simultaneous web guests? The limit is basically is your hardware. By default, you are able to get as much as 8 web guests connected to the same studio feed. But what you can do is, and the limit is basically coming from this setting here, the number of audio channels, the maxed audio channels for the feed. And you can put here 32, and it will basically have 16 stereo audio tracks. And this will allow you to have up to 16 web guests connected to the same web guest URL. By default, we have limited it to 16 to limit the number of processing we have to do. But you can crank it up to 32 and have 16 guests. But keep in mind that you will have to cope with all the processing you have to do with for all of those guests. And yeah, there's another setting here, which is encoder for web preview and guest encoder. And if VP9 is selected here, it will allow us to have better quality for the guests. But at the same time, it will require more processing power since we encode each stream separately for each guest. What you can do here, you can switch to GPU H.264 encoding, and this will switch to H.264 encoding, and all the feeds going to the guests will be encoded just once. But at the same time, it will limit how you can basically use the available bandwidth, since basically what we have to do is depending on the lowest quality of the connections of all the guests. So if you have one guest with a really poor connection, since we are encoding the video only once, we will have to crank down the bandwidth for all the guests, since the one who is on poor connection is not able to receive the fast enough encoded picture. So this will basically limit all the guests at the same time. If you are using VP9, we don't have that limitation. There was one question for regarding VP9. Is there any graphics card that can do GPU encoding for VP9? Not with our software. It might be possible somehow to do it using CUDA encoding, but this is not something we are currently doing. And so probably we'll investigate if we can do it later. The next question, will the recording of this session be provided afterwards? Yes, we usually put it into our YouTube channel. What's the difference between license and partner license? The difference is that in most of the cases, when you are using our software internally, you just use the general license that allows you to see all the video streams which you have published, and there is no restriction what everybody can see. But at the same time, it's some kind of flaw if you would like to send the specific stream to one of your partners who are not the part of your company, probably. And for that specific case, we can use the partner license. And then in their publisher ID, you are using the same access ID to limit the reception to only one stream, and we will not be able to access any other streams. Which is better, SRT, HEVC, or AVC? In terms of the quality versus bandwidth, HEVC is better, and HEVC stands for 8265 encoding, and AVC corresponds to H264 encoding. And according to our tests, with the same amount of quality, you might have twice as less bandwidth usage with HEVC codec. But at the same time, it takes a little bit more processing power from your GPU. And probably we will not be able to do any HEVC encoding on CPU, while we can do encoding of AVC on CPU. What is the best source for the documentations and training for VT? The best way is to start from our documentation site, which is on docs.medialux.com/videotransport. And you can see plenty of documentation here, including getting started, which shows a few simple steps to start using our product. And also we are getting a lot of questions regarding licensing, so you can check the licensing page, how the licensing system works. And at the same time, you can also watch for our previous webinars where we have covered all the functionality, and it might be really useful. What type of machine do you suggest us to use on AWS? It depends on the number of video streams you would like to use, so there is no correct answer for this kind of generic term. And basically, you can start with lowest available GPU enabled AWS instance, and just test on it if it will cope with the amount of streams you have to use. And maybe if there is any issue, then just upgrade to the faster version. Can Vtb run on local network? The answer is yes and no. It's perfectly fine to send the video streams inside the local network, but we still need to have an access to our cloud signaling server, which is managing the connections between the different peers. So the video will go straight inside your local network, but we still need access to the internet to get to our signaling server. At the same time, we do have clients who have done the complete internal setup, which is not connected to the outside world at all. And this is the solution you can get using our on-prem edition, which we can install on your infrastructure, and that can work completely standalone. Yeah, that's it. So yes, you can use it on the local network. Depending on the setup, it might be two different ways of doing it. Will sender and receiver require GPU to use SRT HEVC? Yes, it will require NVIDIA GPU for HEVC codec. So what I have missed, when it available on macOS? We are currently working on cross-platform solution. We hope to get macOS version at the beginning of the next year, but don't quote me on that. I can't really tell you the exact date so far. Probably one of the new features I would like to cover today is that some of our clients has asked for a way to password protect the access to web guest or web preview URLs. And this is a feature which is currently available. So you can assign the usernames and passwords as well as start time and expiration time for different guests. All you have to do to make it working, you can disable the allow anonymous access and add guests, select the start and then date when you want them to be active. Click OK, and then you can enable, disable the specific logins and passwords. And you can also copy the password from here or copy URL for the specific guest, which have the login name pre-populated in it. And once you've done with all of those setup, you just send the links to your guests and they use their own logins and passwords to access your show. It works for both web preview as well as web guests. And if you would like to disable the access for any of the guests, you can do it straight away. Just disable specific guest, and it will be automatically disconnected from all the current connections, as well as will not be able to log in afterwards. This might be really handy if you have a few shows running one after another. You can just specify the start time at a different time, and it will allow the guest to log in only after the specific time, as well as basically do not have access anymore as soon as expiration time comes. Okay, any more questions? Can you also limit access to SRT? The feature which I have currently shown is related to the web previews and web URLs, but there is another option to limit the access for specific SRT streams. You can go into the settings and use the SRT passphrase here. This will allow you to access the stream only if at the remote end you also have put the same SRT passphrase at the settings. So yes, this is one of the ways to limit the access to SRT streams. If another user happens to find my publisher ID, can it get access to my video streams? Nope, it cannot unless they have the same license file that you have. the only way when they can access is that when you're still running on the demo license without on a demo version of our software without any license used. Then in this case, the only way we kind of find out who is just using the publisher ID that you can set for yourself. So yeah, in this case, yeah, they can access just because it's unlicensed version. And so we are not limiting the access. And you can clearly see then you are running without license because we have the MediaLux logo at the bottom of the screens, which is really, really annoying for someone. And you definitely know that you are running the demo license in this case. As for trial license, which I mentioned, that the one you are downloading after registration from our admin panel here, this one is the fully functional trial license, but it doesn't have any limitation whatsoever except the number of channels you are available for you. You can use up to 4 channels on this trial license. The rest of the functionality is completely the same as on our paid version. So if I want to send the stream to outside partner, I need to send them my license. You can use the partner license and send them the ID of that specific stream you would like them to receive. Oh, looks like I missed another question. How many VT users are on worldwide now? It's a really tricky question. I'm not quite sure if I should answer, but let me estimate it like that. It's somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000. One more question. Does Webcast support mix minus? Yes, and actually the only Webcast support mix minus. The Vtguest is not supporting it so far. Is there any other questions? If using the mix minus on Webcast, is it required to build a mix minus on Vision Mixer for the return program feed to the guest? Yeah, vmix TriCaster output back to the guests. Yeah, as I mentioned before, you have to make what we call the total mix minus. So this is the studio feed we are we should be getting into our VT publisher should contain your program audio minus all the guests. So you don't have to make the mix minuses for all the different guests, but we still need the clean audio, which doesn't contain any guests audio at all. The reason for that is that we do able to mix in the additional guests to send it to the guests. But if you have provided us with the original audio, which already contains all the guests, there is no way for us to delete the audio or mute the audio for the specific guest we do not need to be used for any specific guest. So yeah, you have to make this total mix minus, but only one. If we want to host our own control panel for security reason, we need to go for the on-prem. Yes, if you would like to have an isolated setup which is running on your own infrastructure, then you can go on-prem edition. And yeah, this is the main reason the security reason is basically one of the main one our clients are currently asking for the on-prem. It doesn't mean that if you are using our cloud solution, it's kind of compromising the way of security of your streams, since it still can be received only by someone who have your license. But at the same time, as everybody knows, the more you have control of your infrastructure, the better your security will be. So yes, on-prem is better, but it doesn't mean that the cloud solution we are providing is really that bad. Is it possible to exclude some guests from the mix minus? I'm not quite sure what exactly you are trying to do. If you are trying to mute the microphones of some of the guests while they are not on air, so they do not disrupt the other guests at the same mix minus group, then what you can do is you can use the remote settings of the guest. Oh, looks like I don't have any guests anymore. Oh, yeah, sure. I have enabled the security feature here. That's why the guest was disconnected, because it didn't have any login. So for the web guests, there's an option to control their microphones remotely. So what you can do is you just can mute the microphone, so it will not be contributing to the show as well as to the mix minus. Is there a way I can build a panel that I can have all my guest camera and mic setting on one page, that I can easily switch them on, off during the event? Technically speaking, yes, you can do so. But from the practical reasons, I believe this is not something which will be really easy to do, because you will have to dive into our internal APIs we use for controlling the web guests, and this is something which is subject to change. So if you will develop such type of functionality, it might be broken later once we change our internal API. But the feature itself, to have this kind of multi-viewer of all the guests and be able to mute on and off everyone and having them on the same screen, is something we have been thinking internally. So probably it will be available somewhere later, once we will have time to develop this specific type of scenario into our software. I will need to have 40 streams, one at a time, from around the world over 20-hour periods. So I wanted to bring in 4 guests an hour and rotate different group of 4 for the day. Is it possible with 5-channel license? Yes, it is possible, since we are counting only the active channels. So everybody who is connected at the same time. The only question here is that, do you have any gap to make the proper setup of the next group of 4 while you are doing, so if they are not overlapping in terms of the time you are using for the testing and preparation of the next 4, then it's fine. But if you would like to have 4 on air and another 4 already preparing and connecting, so probably you will have to go into our 10-channel license, since once the guest is connected, no matter if it's not on the output, it's already counted as active channel, since they can already participate in the mix minus group, and basically the video is already running. So that's why we have to count all of those, even they are off air, but they already being transferred through our system. Yes, but that is too many clicks in a way to have them on one page. I believe it's a question related to the previous one regarding turning on and off the microphones of the different guests. Yeah, that's why we really was thinking about putting everything together on one page. If we have questions about specific use case and best practices using VT, is support the best place to contact? Yes, the best way right now is we have made the dedicated support email, which is vt@medialux.com. Since Medialux is not only developing video transport, but we have other products. And so we decided to make the shortcut for our VT customers to have a dedicated email specifically for them. So once again, you can email to vt@medialux.com. And to get even more regarding this question about the support, you can also arrange the meeting with one of our technical pre-sales engineers who can walk you through regarding your scenario. So you can just write to our vt@medialux.com or to our sales team at sales@medialux.com, and you can ask them to arrange this one-on-one session, where we will listen to your exact needs and show you how you can do it using VT. Can you control NDI cameras from VT? We do not have specific controls to control the NDI cameras, but what we can do is that we are transferring all the NDI controls through our software. So let me try to show you. When you have, like I do have here, I have a PTZ optics camera on one side, and then I can receive it at another location and output it as NDI at the other location. Just give them a second for scan shake. Yes, and then I output as NDI, and now I can just run the studio monitor like you do in your local network. Let me try to run it and show it to you. So it will appear as basically my local source, and then I have all of those controls. So I can turn the camera, move it around, zoom in, zoom out. So everything works like this NDI camera is inside my local network. So yes, we do have an option to control NDI cameras, but not through our software itself, but you just output this NDI at your remote location and use the internal NDI tools studio monitor to make the actual controls. Which is the minimum guest bit rate / quality suggested in case of not performing guest connections? We do not recommend to go lower than 1.5 megabits per second. And yeah, I guess everything lower might be really not of a production grade quality at all. So probably you would not prefer to, you would prefer not to have this picture on air anyway. Can I change the publisher source and keep the access code the same? The answer is a little bit tricky. There is so this is not something which is currently built into our solution at the beginning, but there is an option to do it if you are a little bit familiar with how the XML files work. So what you can do is that you can manually open the publisher XML file, which is located in the DLL subfolder of our application. And here you can see all the different sources which we ever saw at your machine. Like I have plenty of decklink cards, my screen capture, my NDI sources, etc. And there is an option to put here the permanent access ID. Let me find it on my machine here first. Come on. Yeah, so for each line here, you have the settings, web preview permanent ID. And basically what you have inside the quotes here is the ID of the stream. So you can manually edit this file and put the ID for the specific source here. And this will basically help with the scenarios when you want, if this ID will ever change, you can just go here and change it back to the previous. And usually it stays the same until you click reset access ID / URL here. And it shouldn't really change unless you have reinstalled the software. But if for any reason you have to go and change the ID back to what it was before, yes, you can do it by changing the setting inside the XML file. Is it possible to start with subscription model and upgrade to the on-prem? Yes, you can start with a subscription model, and then as soon as you are ready to go on-prem, you can talk to our sales and they will help you to do the transition to the on-prem. What is the difference between the bit rate in the pull down and the one in the settings menu? I believe the question is regarding the bit rate you see here and the one which is set inside the settings tab here. The difference is that the one which is at the main window is related to our SRT connection between VT publisher and VT receiver. So we're basically setting the bit rate for those connections between the applications. And what you can see here is the bit rate for the web previews and guests. So it's the settings for the web guest scenarios, as well as there is another setting for the web guests themselves, which each guest individually can have their own bit rate for the feed which is coming from the guest to the studio. Any more questions? Oh, okay. What's the difference? The bit rate, I already answered. Is there any plan for Smpte 2110 support? Yes, we closely investigate that. And actually, we already support AJ Kona IP capture card, which is Smpte 2110 enabled card. And we are also investigating some other options. I can't really have any press releases on that before we finish the actual tests on our side. But what we would like to have is the easier way to have the network integration when we have everything running in the clouds. So we are working on the way to have the fluent connectivity to Smpte 2110 inside the network infrastructures of cloud-based providers, as well as if you have your own setup. Then, yeah, this is something we're really closely looking on. But as I mentioned, I can't really give you the dates when it will be totally available. So far, we are kind of limited to the AGA card only. But later on, we would like to have the support of some other solutions. I can't really tell you the brands so far, but we are closely working on it. In my tests, I had the best quality with VP9 as it's what should be expected. Yeah, for the web contribution, usually VP9 is better, probably mostly due to the better support on the remote end. And yes, we also experience VP9 as a preferable way when you have enough CPU power to encode and decode the different streams, since, as I mentioned, we have to encode each VP9 stream going into each guest separately. Anyone else? Great software and great presentation. Thank you, Alexander. You are welcome, Kevin. And we are always glad to share some of our thoughts and get some feedback from our clients. It's really, really valuable that you are attending all of those webinars and sharing your experience. And also feel free to contact us via email at any time. And if you have any issues, just let us know. Yeah, you're also welcome, Jay. Any other questions I can help you with? You are welcome, Dennis. It's always nice to see some good feedback regarding our product. Oh, Matthias, you're also welcome, and that's cool that you are that you find this interesting to watch our presentation. Okay, let's just wait for one final question, and if that's everything you wanted to ask today, then we will wrap up. But I still would like to get one final question or notice. So please go ahead. Okay, looks like there are no more questions, so let's wrap up for today. And thanks to everyone for joining us today, and feel free to contact us in any time, and we are ready to help you with your specific scenarios. And let us know if there are any features you would like to see in our next releases. We are constantly working to improve our product, and always listening to all the feedbacks from all of our clients, and we are happy to help you to continue to do business while it's really hard to do it in all of those conditions right now. We are really dedicated to make the best product to accommodate all of your needs. Thanks a lot, and thank you, Maxi, as well. And see you next time. And yes, let's stay in touch. Bye-bye, everybody.